All right.
So recording is going on, and I've just admitted Maureen into your meeting.
And do you want to make me
Yep, I'm going to
now?
make you host.
All right. Oh, the host, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. And please just let us know if you do have any questions or any problems. We have the committees at bridgewaterma.org email address.
Okay.
Eileen knows how to reach us as well. And we're trying our very best to fill Josh's shoes while he's gone. But thank you all, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dawn.
Okay, take care.
Probably didn't expect this to take quite this
long.
No.
Nope. And I'm sorry that it did happen that way, but we'll make sure it doesn't in the future.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
All right. We are convening at 7:21. Thank you all for hanging in there and not doing something else. So let's see. I know that Nicole is not going to be here. Her son won some kind of a sports tournament and got to go to Fort Myers and play in some kind of a special game or something. So that was like a last minute thing, and they were flying down to Fort Myers this afternoon, the whole family. So anyway, I couldn't beat that. So meeting minutes, November 17th, 2022 minutes. Let's see, Lauren was not here, but Maureen and Michael and I were. So Maureen or Michael, can we approve these? You have a motion?
I'll take it. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
All right.
I'll second it.
All right, and I agree. Okay, approved. Public comment, Pat and Melissa. Go ahead and you can mention the order that the Pat just sent me the
response.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So why don't you can just mention that? I mean, we won't discuss it because it hasn't been on the agenda, but as a public comment, I think you're welcome to just advise us that this just happened, because as I say, I just saw the email, so it's news to me. So let everybody else know.
I guess Claremont has filed their draft environmental, what is it, Melissa?
Impact report.
Impact report.
Mm-hmm.
And the Mass Environmental will have to review it and respond. So I don't know anything about the time frame on that, but it is progressing. So you probably all.
Okay, so this was Claremont's filing. For some reason, I thought it was a response from the state. No,
it was a response from the.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, they state already responded, and yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah.
Right.
So just to add to that, it's going to be published in the environmental monitor on December 23rd. Mm-hmm. And comments will be accepted through January 23rd, public comments.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll have time to look into it and get our responses.
Environmental
yeah. Okay. Comments by January 23rd. Is that what you said, Melissa? Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, and our next meeting is going to be January 19th. So that's good. All right. Okay. Anything else any members of the public would like to comment on? Nope. Okay. Michael, do you know what we're talking about, or what they're talking about?
Yes. Yep.
Yes, yeah. Okay. That you were on by the time that was last discussed, I guess. Okay. All right. What month did you join anyway? You've been on what, like 4 months now?
September. Yes, I think so.
Okay. All right. My time flies. Okay. Old business. First item, parks information for town website. I don't know if anybody had an opportunity to see what Josh did before he left. It was a start. It is a start. He's pasted. Did you take a look, Lauren, seeing you were the one that did all this work? You're muted.
I haven't gotten the chance to yet, so I'm gonna.
Okay, well, I think from what I can tell, basically what he did is if you go to the Open Space Committee page, at the bottom, he's posted a map, and then he's posted the links, the updated NRTB plans that you edited and added, you know, parking, pick photos and whatever else you added. I don't remember exactly myself. He's posted those there, but as near as I can tell, that's the only place that they're showing up. And I went and looked at Parks and Recreation, which I think was a place I had suggested to him after he sent them out that it needed to go under there too. And I think he left on his paternity leave before he got to it. There was a change to Parks and Recreation, but it was a weird looking change. It was, it looked like somebody had posted something that was sort of a draft of some, I don't know, you know, some pictures or something. It was, and that's, so the last I looked, it's still basically the parks list only Legion Fields, Scotland golf course, and one other, the ball fields, the Crescent Street ball field. So, and there was, well, the next item we're going to talk, or one of the items we're going to talk about is that meeting that was held this week, the meet and greet for the parks and trails, and that did come up then that it just doesn't make any sense at all for Parks and Recreation not to have all of these parks listed. And even in terms of open space, if I was moving to a town or coming to Bridgewater and wanted to know where I could hike, I don't think I'd click on open space. I think I'd look for parks or trails or something, you know, so it's, so I think what we all ought to do, and particularly Michael, you, because you're a computer, what do you call yourself, a designer?
Yeah, designer. Yeah, graphic designer.
Graphic designer, and Lauren too, you know, if you want to take a look too and see where you think, I think it would be nice for us to just give Josh a little more guidance.
Yeah.
About, you know,
I
just
mean,
picture yourself as a stranger coming to town. Where do you need to find this?
and that was the original suggestion I had, was to build it all on the open space page, but then just have a link under the recreation or the parks on the Parks and Recreation to send it back to the open space so people know to go there.
I see. Okay, well that would make sense. Yeah. Okay.
So that hopefully back, that won't be hopefully too hard.
Yeah. I don't think it should be too hard. Pat?
I know when I tried to find parks, I had to go to Concom, and no one's going to do that.
You had to go to Concom to find parks?
Yeah, they're listed under that.
Really? Oh.
Yeah.
See, that's the other thing. I think there are so many different avenues to get to these different places too.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I've been to Concom when I've gone to parks.
Yeah,
I don't know where I've picked it up from. But you almost need to know. So I guess that's the other question, you know, where do we put it on, when you open up the town website, one, does it make sense to have a link to parks right there? And maybe not, maybe parks aren't, you know, maybe people are more interested in their sewer bill and their taxes and the next town council meeting. Maybe parks doesn't rise to that level of importance, but somebody ought to consider that anyway and make that decision if it doesn't. And then if not, you know, how else could it be? Where else could it be an easy link? You know, is there something about things to do, things to see in Bridgewater on the homepage? I don't know, but I think there's got to be a lot better, a lot more work that just needs to be done by people who are familiar with the website and or us as ignorant members of the public looking at this for the first time. And I'm not sure. There was quite a bit of discussion about this at that meeting that Michael, Maureen, and I attended on Tuesday, but that doesn't mean anything will happen. So we'll see. Maureen, your hand's up.
Yeah, I did. You know, you just hit upon something. We travel quite a bit, and one thing I do when I'm going into an area I'm not quite sure of is I hit and go things to do or things to see that area. And so when you just said that, it was like, yeah, of course. That's probably would be the best way to somehow list the park or a link to the park so people at least know. Because like I said, first thing I do is I hit that thing in the area and then write down everything that I want to go do and take it from there. So anyway.
Yeah, and even if you go, I mean, you know, branching out a little further, even if you know, things to do in Southeast Mass, or I mean, what other links might there be? Or I'm just thinking, and I'm when I go someplace too, like the 10 best things to do in Bridgewater. Is there such a link someplace? And if not, you know, how do we create one, or how do we get it on it? Or 10 best places to walk in around Bridgewater, or something like that. I mean, I think that all of you who are much more media and online a lot more than I am probably have a younger people, is what I'm saying, should need to do this. What happened to Michael? Oh, he's back in the waiting room, huh? What happened? What happened to you?
Sorry about that. I have a power saving power strip that has a timer on it, and it turns off at 7.
Oh.
7:30. So apologies for that.
All right. Well, what you missed me saying is it's up to people like you and Lauren who actually know how to do this stuff. Like, you know, if you're traveling someplace, Maureen was saying, and you know, she looks up what to do in, you know, Moab, Utah. So what do you do if someone's coming to Bridgewater State, let's say, and they say, you know, what fun things to do, or where can you get outside in Bridgewater? You don't want to have to go to the town of Bridgewater even to do that. You know, it's like, how do those things appear on Travelocity, or, you know, whatever, when you're Google mapping somebody and you get all these lists of all the things to do? How does that happen?
Yeah, I was gonna say that just kind of like looking at the website, we're kind of being let down because all this information is buried at tertiary level navigation. So landing page, another secondary page, another page behind that, it's filtered back so far that unless you look for it intentionally, like you were saying, you're not going to find it. There is, I perceive from a user experience perspective, there are a couple of solutions. One being, which you mentioned, which is working with Josh and seeing if, I think there's a section on the website that says our services. If there can be an additional section using the same structure, putting like around town or something like that. And then all of the committees like Parks and Recreation, Open Space, anything that has to do with recreation in general, or that will interact, that the town and townspeople and even visitors might interact with. Having it serve up that information there is probably a first step. And I think a second step would be, like you're mentioning, around targeted ads and information getting up on Travelocity or TripAdvisor or stuff like that. That's targeted ads. And then there are actually specific websites that are around enthusiast destinations like Moab, for example, that have all that. And microsites can be done, and they can be done on the cheap. I'd be happy to like write up a proposal of like what that would take and like what the cost would be, and share it out in the next meeting if you'd like.
Okay, why don't you hold up, Michael, because let's not operate on the assumption that anything will get done anytime soon. Not to be a pessimist, but that's how things work. So you know, if we want to advance an idea like that before you write it up, it would be worth talking to Josh, you know, probably waiting for Josh to come back and find out what hurdles he's already run into. You know, if he hasn't been able, maybe he's tried a bunch of things already and he's come up against hurdles. And so if he's run into that, then we surely would, and you would as well. So let's find out what the stumbling blocks are, and make some sort, you know, I think making what your suggestion to him at the next meeting he's at would be good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, let's give him a chance to get back into it, because it may be that he had a number of things worked out in his head, at least, that he just didn't get to execute.
Totally.
So yeah, let's let's put that off for another month. And then, you know, as I say, there was discussion at that meeting the other day. But I mean, all those people around there have been discussing it for 20 years. So, you know, whether anything actually comes out of that, I don't know. But and I think, as you heard Michael Dutton say, Stiles and Hart is going to be like the model, yeah, for every other park, and everything that gets done there should ought to be able to be transferable. But what the time frame is, for instance, for them actually coming up with an online description for Stiles and Hart and what's there, and figuring out themselves how people find out about it, I don't know. And it may not get any further than the town describing it, putting it on their website someplace, presumably under Parks and Rec, but not taking it to the extent we're talking about, like how do you get where people can actually find it and utilize it. And
well, while we're doing this, I went on my phone and I put in location of parks on the town website. And I'm up with it, and most of it's PDF files, but it does below that, it does tell you where the different parks are located, each individual park located, if you know the name of the parks. But if you don't know the name of the parks.
So it was location of parks, is that what you said you put in, just that?
Yeah. Okay. But it doesn't say parks, it just says conservation areas.
Oh.
You'd have to be aware of what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, because conservation area, I mean, maybe you wouldn't even know you could go there.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't go. You can't go to a conservation area. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Multiple issues, but one we'll keep working on, and I think Josh should be back by the next meeting. A few days ago, I counted like when he got off, and I think he'll be back then. So now that doesn't mean he will have had a chance to do any work, but we can at least have this conversation with him. And then in the meantime, Lauren and Michael, if you want to give it some thought yourself too about how else to approach it, or where else to put it, or whatever, please do. So in fact, maybe you two and Josh can become our web committee or some such thing. But anyway, okay. So this was just a formal notice that Nicole was actually nominated to the tree committee. That was at the last council meeting. We voted last time to send a letter to nominate her as our open space committee representative, and the council has now acted on it, and so she is officially our member. And she, in her notice to me, telling me that she couldn't be here tonight, said that there was a meeting on Tuesday, but that really nothing happened. It was just kind of administrative. And Pat Neary is going to be a member at large. Is that right, Pat? Up. You're muted, Pat. You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry, if I'm accepted, but I understand most of those committees, they'll take anyone with a pulse. Yeah. So.
Yeah,
we'll
so
we'll see.
Yeah. And how many other spots are still to be filled on that committee? Do you know?
Well, they did have a list, and there was an arborist or someone equal to, and of course someone from DPW. So that would probably be Ron. And
Ron.
They've already appointed Ray and Ray from the planning board, and of course Nicole from open space. Maybe Shirley from BI. Yeah. I think that might be the roster.
Okay, and Ron is in Public Works. Did you say, what's his last name?
What the heck's his name? Ron DaCosta, is it?
Oh, okay. I don't know. Yeah. So what's his role there? What's his title? What's his?
He's I don't know, DPW engineer or something.
Okay. All right. So it doesn't have any not specific tree experience, but just
no.
Yeah, okay.
But he would give them guidance as far as the municipal trees are concerned, and everyone would need him, you know, if a tree falls down to remove it, for example.
Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah. Okay, any other questions about that? Do you know how often, have they made any recommendations about how often they meet or anything, Pat? I mean, is it going to be a monthly?
It probably will be. I followed the meetings when they were forming the committee, and it didn't seem to be, you know, too demanding. Yeah. But they do want to plan an inventory of town trees, which sounds like a huge project to me. Right, yeah. But I'm sure they're going, with all those people, they're going to be quite adequate. And I figured it would be a good learning process for me.
Yeah, yeah. All right. And you'll be a good advocate, I'm sure.
We'll see if they, you know, decide to select me.
Okay. So the Wyman Meadow, I have discussion postponed. But I was gonna, because Owen couldn't be here. Owen is the new person who is joining. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm trying to do two things here. Hold on just a minute. I thought I had this open somewhere before. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay. All right, so I'm going to share screen. All right, so Owen couldn't be here tonight. They were having, Wildlands Trust was having their Christmas party. And Lauren, you weren't here last time. I think you may have met Mitch Hennings. I mean, or at least he was on one of our calls, and he's left Wildlands Trust. He's going into physical therapy. And so the person who is taking this project over, his name is Owen, and I can't remember his last name at the moment, but he's been with Wildlands Trust for a long time. So I think we're in good hands. Anyway, he was going to come to this meeting and he couldn't because of their party. So I'm hoping he can be here by next time in January, but he sent this to me in the last couple of days and I haven't responded to him yet. So I thought I was just going to send him some comments, and I thought I might as well just share it all with you. So we can just look at the stewardship plan, he's calling it. And Michael, Maureen, and I and Pat were all out at the site visit that time. And we talked about all of this, of course. Okay, so there will need to be a bridge. I think he seems to think that a little more is required than Mitch was calling it a bog board, but he thought that Owen seems to think that something a little more substantial is needed for the amount of wetlands there, and that requires going to the Concom, which we knew. I mean, even a bog board would require that. And so he's talking to Steve Sobel about what's needed for the Concom, because I don't know. I mean, I've never put anything or worked on anything in front of them. So Steve will give him the details about how he has to write it up and what has to be. I mean, I'm sure there'll have to be a wetland delineation, whether they have, I don't know what else they have to do for that. But so construct the bridge, design the materials for the kiosk, mow down the large invasive plant island at the parking area, install fencing at the parking area, construct the trail. And as when we were there, we estimated, I think that it's maybe 3/4 of a mile of trail that will be on the town property, and then the rest going, and once you go into the woods that border the town property, that's where it becomes Wildlands Trust property, and they would just do the rest of it through their own property. They will do signs with rules, trail and boundary signage, etc. And I assume that would all go up on the kiosk. And Now, the only, the one thing that he hasn't included anything about is cost. And I think we probably, I know they've been very positive about it not costing too much and that they would pick up most of the cost. But I think I think there's going to be some, have to be some further discussion about that, because I'm sure this bridge is going to cost more than just the bog board that was originally suggested. So, and plus everything always costs more than what you expect anyway, right? So I think we need to, it might be a good idea now to get start putting some numbers on this before we go too much further with it. Anyway, so that's pretty much it. And I did, at the meeting that was at, that we were at on Tuesday, the meet and greet, I did talk to Michael Dutton just beforehand and told him that we really want to get moving on this. Wildlands Trust is ready to go ahead, and I want to make sure that he's talked to the water people and they're okay. And so he said, all right, yeah, he would do that. And anyway, so that's, we'll hear more detail about this, but having seen it, think about what other questions, or if you have any thoughts about what else you would want to see on this, just in terms of detail before, and so like I could pass that on to, Maureen, did you just raise your hand?
Yeah, I did. I know I was there for the meeting, but they never discussed how big the bridge was going to be. So
right, yeah.
These little tiny things you put over, like in a backyard stream type thing.
Yeah.
Or how,
and I wonder if they really know. I don't know whether it, like, do you have to be out there at every 4 seasons to know just how or do you go and do soil testing and see if how far the wetland extends? Is that part of the wetlands delineation process where you would get a better idea of what you could walk on and what you couldn't? I don't know. That's a good question though, but
yeah, because you can't put prices until you know the sizes of everything, and I mean, all these plans are great, but we don't know exactly talking about. So perhaps we need more information or another walk out through the area on and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I would think that really, I mean, the key to this is getting Concom approval, and so he's going to have to, I think, have pretty much detailed information about exactly what's proposed, how long the bridge will be, how high it'll be, how many posts it requires. I think that's what's going to be part of the application. So I guess I would just assume have him be more specific about this now, because this isn't, if we approve something like this as our next meeting, it's really just sort of an interim step. And maybe he can work with Steve between now and January and get more specifics. And that is what I will suggest to him.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay.
So I guess we didn't really postpone discussion. All right. I will just get back with him and ask him for more specifics. All right. So the next item is this Bridgewater State Forest site visit. We talked about this last time, Laura. I was just curious about the Bridgewater State Forest because I've heard it mentioned a number of over the years, and nobody seems to know anything about it. And I started off just Googling it, and I found a Department of Conservation state description that basically says it's a small, little known property with no recreation infrastructure and few known uses. And so that was kind of consistent with what I've heard about around town about it. And there's no trails, there's no parking. Recreation is limited to off-trail based activities such as hunting, and it protects the quality of water entering South Brook. It's over kind of behind where, do you know where Bernier's Liquors is on 104? It's sort of behind that. And at the meeting we were at Tuesday, the person who manages the Bridgewater State Trails over near the commuter rail parking lot there, he described for us where we could access it. So
it's Dan Resendez.
Dan Resendez, yeah. So, anyway, so I think when I'm going to be away for a while, I'll send out the dates. I don't want to do that in this meeting in public, but I will send out the dates when I won't be around. And so when I get back, we can see about going over there. And but the other thing is I've tried to find out, I wanted to find out from the town, from the state, because in that park inventory listing on the state website, it says this park is managed by staff from the F. Gilbert Hills State Forest, which happens to be in Norfolk. And it gives a phone number. So I've called that phone number 3 times, left a message, I'm from Bridgewater Open Space. I just want to find out more about this property. Nobody has called me back. So I emailed somebody on the state website who's listed as the, public outreach for forests or something. And I asked her these questions and she got said, oh, sorry, I don't know anything about about this place. Why don't you try DCR Parks? So I haven't done that yet, but I don't know, I wasn't thrilled with that response. I thought she could have at least perhaps found a name for me of somebody who might be helpful, so now I'll get to call a bunch of different people at DCR will probably send me back to her. But the reason I'm interested in it partly is just because it seems like if there's a state forest in town and we're concerned about open space, we ought to know about it. And I'm also, one of the questions I had for the state people was what level of protection does the property have? Is it, if it's in their hands, if they decide they want to log it, is it entirely up to them? Do they notify the town? I just would like to know, just rather than waking up someday and finding out that all 60 acres has been clear cut. So I'll keep plugging away at this and seeing if we can find anything out. But that's it. Oh, but we did think we would like to walk over and see it. Well, the way it's been described to us, Nicole was on this call last time, Lauren, and her boys have gone over there from time to time, and she doesn't think there's much of anything over there. But the map of it shows it's kind of like a bow tie. It's got this really narrow point in the middle. Are you looking it up? You're nodding your head. You have it on. Do you have the map? Oh, you're muted, Lauren. You're muted, Lauren.
Yeah, I've seen the map of it.
You have, okay, all right. So anyway, I'm not sure how much it'd be useful for anything in terms of trails or whether there would be any reason to do that. We've got enough park areas that are untended and unused now, but I just would like to know more about it and make sure that if there's some way to protect it from as yet unknown threats, that we know something about it if that should ever come up. So anyways, one of these days we can just take a walk over there. And Michael, if you want to go anytime. That's to you and I where the entrance is. So yeah, you could go and.
Absolutely. Yeah. Before we get, some snow on the ground.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I won't be able to go before I leave, but yeah, feel free to go over and you can report to us if you like. So.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
All right. Okay. All right. So I've been referring to this public meeting. I guess I should have put that on earlier on the agenda because I keep talking about it. So this was this first meet and greet, park trails and park. Yeah, I forget what it was called, but it was put together by Kitty Doherty of the Natural Resources Trust of Bridgewater and Michael Dutton's office. And it's called Bridgewater Parkland and Trails Meet and Greet. And there was something along these lines before COVID. There was a meeting, and actually that was when I got Maureen to join the Open Space Committee. So it was the meeting was kind of a bust. It accomplished almost nothing, and it was just a very unfocused discussion. Maureen and I left to go to the Democratic Town Committee meeting, and that's where I asked her to be on our committee. So it wasn't a waste of time after all. But this one was meant to like get back to where we were, because at that point I remember Steve Sobel from the CD, Community Economic Development, he had a big get together planned at Styles and Hart, you know, getting volunteers involved, and there were things like for Earth Day, there was something big that was going to be planned in all the parks, and then of course nothing happened, and then things haven't gotten reorganized since. But that did not happen at this meeting either. I don't know, Maureen and Michael, if you can think of anything worthwhile that came out of this. To me, about the only thing that was of a whole lot of use is that we will meet quarterly. I thought that was good because I really enjoyed meeting the people there. I thought that was the most useful part of it. And if we had spent the hour meeting and greeting, I think that would have been probably the best use of the time, rather than hearing some of what was on the agenda. And it was interesting to hear Michael update where some of these, where we are with the various town-owned properties, but there really wasn't a whole lot new there. I mean, he knew far less about Lyman Meadow than I did. And Carver's Pond, you know, there isn't really anything to say about that. The person who had been taking care of that, Mel Shea was his name, he lived on South Street, so I knew he was moving because his house was for sale, and I've seen new people moving in. So I texted him because I had met him once at Carver Pond, and he's moved to way out.
Gardner, I think.
Gardner. I knew it was a G, Western Mass. So he was such a wonderful volunteer. I mean, Carver's Pond, everything that's been done at Carver's Pond was because of him, but he said he had lots of help, but he didn't have contact information for anybody. He said he lost his phone, and so all his volunteers contacts he wasn't able to name. So anyway, I don't know, Tuckerwood didn't. Oh, Maureen got nabbed a couple times as the steward for Tuckerwood, even though that was kind of in another life, wasn't it, Maureen? It's been a while since.
It's been yeah. Yeah. I just I can't get into the woods too much because I've had so many issues with one of my legs.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So yeah, anyway, so I think if we can continue to meet, I mean, I've met the guy who is in charge of the BSU trails, and I think he was the one who knew quite a bit about the Bridgewater Forest, and I think he might be a good resource for us. He's a very energetic person, and maybe even organizing some hikes with him at some point might be an option. Either of you, Maureen or Michael, have anything else you want to add? Anything that you learned or that you found useful? Michael, it was kind of your first exposure to a lot of these characters. Did you have any particular?
Yeah, I have thoughts, but I defer to Maureen if you have any thoughts first.
Well, it was good to hear what they have some real definitive plans for High Street.
Oh, yeah.
Street will be shut down in about May for 4 months. I hadn't known that. I was wondering what they're going to do about that whole issue over there. So it's good to know that things are moving finally, because they've been talking about that dam for a long time.
Yeah. And
then there was oh shoot, it just slipped out of my head. There was one other thing they talked about. Well, I had heard some of it already, but to hear that, you know, they're continuing with the process with Style and Hearts, and that's going to be their big display, you know, big park that they're going to put the money and the time and the effort, and things are moving on it. So that's always good to hear. There's actually some progress someplace.
Yeah.
So there was a few worthwhile things out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the most I took away from that meeting was obviously they want to convene 4 times a year, very specifically focusing on that they want Styles and Hart to be a blueprint for what we do across all the other parks. And in terms of styling, in terms of communication, and all the things that go into, and I think they echoed some thoughts about how that will drive, you know, more foot traffic there, more people using the trail. And I think additionally, they said, you know, it will be another area of access for people living closer to the center of town in the more heavily, thickly settled and heavily congested areas, having some open space in the town. So those were my big takeaways. And I did actually sit next to Dan serendipitously. And we talked before we left, and I told him I will, when I'll stop by the trails at Bridgewater State. If he's around, I will say hello. So.
Oh, great. Okay, good. Yeah, that's good. All right, thank you. Lauren, do you have any, or Pat, you weren't there either, any questions about that meeting or? No, okay.
I'll have one later.
All right. You can call me anytime. All right, so new business. One of the things that was discussed a little bit at that meeting was this Old State Farm Trail project. And I think we actually submitted a letter of support for that a while back when the grant application was sent into the state from the town. So we have been asked to send in another letter of support. You know, now that I'm saying this, I don't know who the letter's going to. I'm going to need some clarification. Remembering that we already did one to the state, maybe this is to the town council. Because one, I don't know, just before the meeting, about 4 o'clock, I sent out information. I forwarded the email from Michael Dutton to all of you that included the his request that we submit a letter, as well as the Community Preservation Act, a request to them as well, their committee. And he sent a copy of the map and a description by the consultant who's been working on that project of what it will entail. It's quite expensive. It's about $250,000, I think was the estimate, which kind of surprised me, just partly because I'm looking at this Wyman Meadows outline here, and they were talking so much about such low cost for that, and this is a 1.8 mile trail, I think, that they're talking about over at the Town River, I mean the Old State Farm project. But I don't know what's involved. I mean, it's, you can see the description that's sent out, but okay, so I think I'm remembering now. I think that the letter that we would be submitting would be to the Community Preservation Act, because they will be going to that committee for funds. So I would like a motion that this committee submit a letter of support to any and all entities that were requested to do, without being specific at this point, because I'm really not sure. But
I'll make the motion.
All right, thank you.
I'll second it.
All right. Maureen, you in favor?
Yeah,
Okay.
It'd be nice to know a little more detail though of what exactly the money is going to be used for. Is it?
Yeah, if it is, they don't think they have an application to CPC yet, so I'm not sure.
You know, so
they're the ones who are really going to want to know what they're being asked to provide. So
yeah.
Well, I think in concept though, we're certainly supportive of it.
In concept, definitely.
Yeah.
I would really like to know a little more about what they're going to be looking for and how much and what it's going to go for. And
well, that should be your CPC hat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think from this committee, we're happy just approving it in concept, right? And then when you get to the CPC, you're going to want to see exactly how they're going to spend
more
it.
detailed. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I don't want to go back and ask for that kind of detail for us now, just to say, yes, we support the trail, because it's obviously a really good project. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Kitty reminded me that I actually led a trail walk out there about 15 years ago when I was on the NRTB board. We just parked on Summer Street. Did you go on that, Maureen?
I probably did, yes. I went on one or two of them, yeah.
All right, it was way back in the woods and
yep,
pretty cool.
exactly.
Yeah.
I have a quick question. Is this the project that they said connects to the kayak launch and the canoe launch?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I was just checking because I was like, where could they get a figure like that from? Maybe they have a specialized, like they have to install a ramp or something like that. I don't know, but that would be like, obviously, you know,
well, that's
disturbing the land and whatnot. So
I mean, it wasn't my impression that they were planning on doing anything to that kayak access, but I could have just missed that. I may be wrong about that.
Somebody's going to do something. They
were talking about some handicapped accessibility, I think,
yes,
too, weren't they? Yeah, so that's always expensive. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Pat, you're muted, Pat. You're muted, Pat.
At the meet and greet, was there the new steward? And is he going to be the coordinator of all these parks?
The town employee, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, he was there. Yep.
And he's going to
there was no discussion about that. Absolutely none.
Because that's who you would probably be working with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was no. I have no idea what his. I have tried. I've called to Parks and Rec. I left a message once with the new directors, you know, to introduce myself and I wanted to talk to him about what the new person would be doing, but he never called me back. And then Brooke Condon is the administrative assistant for there, and she's contacted me for information a couple times, and I asked her if she could put me in touch with the park steward, because I didn't know his name at the time, and she never got back to me. And that committee doesn't post any minutes. The Parks and Rec doesn't post any minutes, so I don't know. It's been hard to get information out of them. But the guy who was there, his name is John Hart. John Hart is the park. I forget what his title is, but it's the park stewards. He's supposed to be the person who's. And from what I know, he has been going around and taking a look at all the parks. And in fact, I know at the time I wanted to invite him to our site visit. That was it. I was trying to invite him to our site visit at Wyman Meadows.
Yeah.
But I didn't know his name, and I couldn't. And nobody was able to give it to me from Parks and Rec, so I didn't do it. But yeah, I think maybe what I'll do even is all right. Note to self: I will invite him to one of our calls. Yeah, all right. I'll try to do that for January.
Yeah.
Invite John Hart.
That would be good.
Yeah. All right. If not January, sometime. So, but he seemed like a real good guy, and he, very open and interested in talking, and contact him anytime. Once I gave him my sad story about not being able to get anybody to get back to me, but. So, okay. All right. So I will send the letter. I don't know when this letter of support is needed too. That's the other thing I need to find out, because I'm hoping I don't have to get it out tomorrow. All right. So then the last new business is the listing of property on North Street adjacent to Murray Needs conservation land. I believe I mentioned this at our last meeting, if not one before, that David Hansen had approached me at one point sometime just within the last 3 or 4 months, and mentioned that where the slaughterhouse is, Michael and Lauren, you know where that property is, where the slaughterhouse is on North Street, that property had been for sale for some time, that once Mr. Den Benson died a couple years ago and the slaughterhouse business stopped, that the property had was known by people in town to be available for $2.6 million. And David suggested that the town might consider trying to acquire some of it, because it's directly adjacent to the Murray Needs property. Murray Needs has absolutely no parking. The only way to access it is to either walk over or park your street on the sidewalk on North Street. And then there is a trail that runs along the side of the open field. But it's not well known and it's not well publicized as it can't be, because if you had a lot of people there, I don't know where they would. I guess you could park over at Hanson's and take your life in your hands walking across the street. But anyway, it seems like in addition to the access issue, it would just be a shame to lose the open space benefit of Murray Needs if they, ended up putting apartments or, 10 houses or whatever would fit on that property. I don't know, and I thought that was a perceptive long range look at, that wouldn't be good. And so I raised it with Michael sometime last summer when I met with him, and he's just like, oh, okay, yeah, something to think about. And then I talked with David Hanson more about it over the course of the months. And I suggested that he might contact Mrs. Den Benson, because she wouldn't know me from anybody. And he apparently, I understand the Hansons actually sold that property to the Den Bensons years ago. So those two families know each other well, and they've been in friends or neighbors and business partners or whatever for years. So he did contact her, and she didn't say no, she wasn't interested in the town, and she didn't say yes, she was interested in the town of making some offer to her. But then this week, what happened is I go on Realtor.com from time to time, and it's listed. So if you care to, right now, you could go on Realtor.com, just type in Bridgewater, and then scroll down to the bottom of the listings on page 1. And you'll see the picture of, there's a lot of pictures there. There's a lot of good pictures. But there's also a description that indicates there are 3 separate parcels, which I thought was interesting. And the price is still $2.6 million, which.
What did you find this on? I'm sorry, I was coughing.
Oh, okay. So go to Realtor.com.
Oh, Realtor. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And then type in, just type in Bridgewater, up at the
yeah.
side.
Yeah.
And then just scroll down through all the listings till you get to the end of page 1. And it's 2 separate listings there. And it describes it as a rare opportunity to purchase this package of 3 lots that totaled 9.34 acres. One is that house on the corner of Pleasant Street North, the one that's been pretty bad shape. And that's got 3.62 acres with it. And then the next one is the commercial building with a, I think that one is 3.97 acres. And then the third one is there's another house. There's 2 houses actually, one on the corner and then one further down North Street. So anyway, the total is 9.34 acres. But one of the things that I had mentioned, and I mentioned this to Michael Dutton at this meeting on Tuesday, that I had just seen this on Realtor.com, and I think he didn't know it was up there, but he had heard. I think somebody from the town had called the realtor, partly to point out to them that it is not commercial property, I guess. The property was grandfathered, the slaughterhouse was grandfathered, but it will not be, it's not zoned, it's zoned for residential now, that no additional commercial property would be allowed, which was good news, I thought. I mean, assuming it's not, the whole thing is not sold off. But one of the suggestions that David Hanson had, and I had passed on to Michael, was if it's too pricey, I mean, everybody agrees that the price is way too high. But if they can't agree on a reasonable price, or the town just can't come up with the funds to purchase it, at any cost that can be negotiated. That one possibility might be to sell off the frontage, the road frontage with the 2 houses on it. And I suppose the commercial building, if there's any use for that, I don't know if there is, but, and then so that the property behind could be protected. Adjacent to Murray Needs, and then there's woodlands in back. The Murray Needs is a field, and then there's woodlands in back. You can see from the pictures how the woodlands have been totally destroyed on that property. The owners of the slaughterhouse property have been allowing someone to log that, and I don't know. One of the counselors was trying to go after that. It was a Brockton company that was coming down there and wasn't licensed to do business or something in Bridgewater, and wasn't paying whatever use taxes he was supposed to or whatever. I don't know what. I think he's done logging now, but it's obviously a real mess. And David Hansen said he doesn't think it would take generations for it to be useful as farmland again, the way it is right now. So anyway, so that's and Michael doesn't sound. Oh, and one of the things that Jennifer, Community and Economic Development, had told me is that he wanted to talk with a few counselors to make sure they're kind of on board before he started making any inroads with this project. I'm starting to lose my voice. So we'll see. I was pleased at least that he didn't just roll his eyes and say that that we couldn't even attempt anything right now because Hansen's farm is still in play, and but so that's all. That's why I have that on here. Is I'm going to try to see how I can move this up to somebody's attention. I think I might start with a couple of the councilmen myself. But I know Michael was also waiting because we have an election. Kind of wanted to see who gets elected, and I guess most of them, the seats aren't up for grabs really, but I guess maybe there could be 1 or 2 new people. So at that point, try talking about starting to raise the issue of this North Street property. All right, any questions about that?
Yes, that would be a good idea before another, what was the name of that awful place on 104? That development. Oh, the ticky-tack houses.
On 104. Pratt Town you're talking about?
Yeah. Before Pratt Town goes in there. Yeah. That would be good.
All right. So anyway, projects keep kind of popping up. Potential projects. So next meeting date, January 19th, 7 p.m. All right. Happy holidays, everybody. Happy New Year. See you all on the 19th.
Yeah, to you too. I hope you have a good one.
You too.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Have a great holiday, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everyone. Bye.
Bye.